All right, everybody, welcome back to Tech Support Live. Apologies for the delay. We had some technical difficulties because we're using this new overlay, but everything should be good now. So let us know if there's any problems with the audio in the chat, and we'll try to fix them. But yeah, we wanted to bring this new overlay to Tech Support Live, give it a new little flair. We hope you guys like it. We hope it looks good. Hold on, let me.
Now we're a bunch of talking heads.
Yeah, we're a bunch of talking heads now. I think we look great. But yeah, I hope you guys like it. I hope it looks good. And you know, welcome back to the stream. If anybody's new, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce myself and let everybody else introduce themselves. My name's Alec. I've been with NETGEAR for a little over a year as an interactive media specialist. So I'm doing a lot of photography and graphic design for social and for web. And with me, I have Ben, Michael, and Darren. Ben, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm Ben Osvito, Zordy Ben, Nighthawk Pro Gaming Brand Experience Manager. So I work with across a lot of channels across the brand, including partnerships, social media, community, and part of it is the outreach here.
Cool. And Michael?
Okay, yep. Hi, Michael. I'm Technical Marketing Manager. I handle a lot of the trade show events, working those, setting products up, as well as working on a lot of the online reviews. And I get to play with a lot of the equipment, so I know a lot of the ins and outs of the products that we're working with.
Cool. And Darren?
And I'm Darren, Tech Support Specialist and Community Moderator. I'm mostly in the community for NETGEAR answering technical questions.
Awesome. All right. So we are starting a little late, so we already have some questions lined up for us. Let me get some of these here. All right. So the first one, we have a NPG question. So we've got Ben here this week, thankfully. We missed him last week. Were you here last week, Ben?
No, I it's been a couple weeks.
Yeah, so we got Ben back. So all your NPG questions, you're going to get them answered today, which is great. But
Fantastic.
The question is, I just got my XR300, and when I play my games, I still get packet loss issues. Is there a specific setting that I'm not using?
Still getting packet loss, which is kind of weird. One, which game? Two, I would guess, are you using the anti-buffer bloat or the congestion monitor? Are you using geofencing? Probably give us a couple of answers on that, and we'll circle back on that. But just getting packet losses, I think we need a little bit deeper. What do you think, Darren?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on especially what game, what server he's connecting to. Maybe checking the ISP modem to see if it's having packet loss issues.
Yeah, I recently upgraded in speed, and I had some issues that I had to iron out with my ISP for literally probably about 2 weeks. I still have some issues that I'm with that speed change. So if you've made any sort of changes, that could also affect it. So
I just missed a part of his notes that he gave us. He also has an S8000 switch, and he's having issues with installation. You shouldn't really have any software installation necessary for an S8000 switch. It's a pretty straightforward switch. There's not too much like smart features on it. One thing I might suggest is make sure that the cable that you're connecting from your router to your switch is new and isn't damaged, because if that's damaged at all, or it's old, or it's just kind of at the end of its life, that'll affect the entire switch.
Yeah, that's an unmanaged switch, so there shouldn't be any sort of installation issues. You should be able to just plug and play with that. Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah, let us know. What game are you playing? what settings that you've utilized, and we'll get back to you.
Cool. So we'll keep going down here. The next question we have is from Avinash, who asks, "Hi, I have a fiber-based PPOPE internet, and I just bought the Nighthawk RX80, but I'm unable to connect to the internet with it as it keeps on asking for SIP user ID and password." That's a question that is too complex for my expertise, but luckily we are joined by the product expert, Michael.
Well, the request he's getting for the SIP user ID and password is odd if it's when he's setting up the REX80, because the SIP user ID and password is what's needed when you're setting up a VoIP device. Basically, you have a modem that also supports voice, then you actually need to put in your SIP ID and SIP password. When you're setting up the REX80, you shouldn't have to. Are you trying to replace the modem that you currently have connected to your fiber with the RAX80, or are you just plugging the RAX80 into the modem and trying to set it up? Because you shouldn't be getting a SIP request for the RAX80. It doesn't support voice.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Well, we'll loop back on that one if he has any more questions or anything to note for us.
A little bit more explanation of where he's actually seeing that message would be helpful.
All right. This is more of kind of just a generic question. What does IGMP snooping accomplish?
What does it accomplish? It tracks packets that are coming in, and it's designed to help stop with denial of service attacks. So it can look at the packet, see where it was coming from, what its destination is, and if too many packets are coming from that source that it decides is invalid, then it'll actually stop trying to send any of those packets from that source on after that. That way you can't have someone bombard your internet connection and stop you from being able to get out.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds like it's a good safety feature.
Yes, it is.
Cool. All right. We have a question from Car Detailing by Patent C, or Patent. I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I butchered your name.
Just call them Car.
Okay, we have a question from Car.
Yep.
I need my car detailed, so hit me up. Nighthawk AC 2200. Is it a good choice if I need a signal up to 75 feet outside of my house? I would say no, as much as I want to praise our products. That's a pretty far distance. It's also going to have to go through walls and so on and so forth. If you're looking for a signal in a location that is outside your house, I would suggest looking into the Orbi Outdoor. That is IP68 rated. It's water, dust, and temperature resistant, unless you're in like the Arctic.
And UV resistant.
And UV resistant. It's got it all.
Yes.
It's a super cool product.
Oh, yeah.
I've gotten to play with it a little bit in the office. I've taken some photos of it. Super solid. Definitely, as far as quality of materials, it's a step up from our regular products. And you can put it in universal mode, which will allow it compatibility with products outside the Orbi family. And you can just use it as a satellite, and it will just be an extender. If you're talking about a location outside your house that's kind of like in a shed or under an ottoman, or not an ottoman, a roof of sorts, it doesn't need to necessarily be waterproof. You could use any of our extenders, but that router itself won't make it that far. That's pretty far.
And actually, I don't recommend using our other extenders outside, even if it is underneath a roof, because when you're outside, there's a lot higher humidity.
That's true.
And so you can end up with a lot more moisture in the product. So it's better not to.
Yeah, definitely. It'd have to be something enclosed. Okay.
Don't we also have that business product if it's a really big
Yes, that's a new one.
What is it called?
It's the AirBridge, the
AirBridge.
WBC 5 something. I was just working with that, but I forgot the exact SKU. But if you look up like wireless AirBridge from NETGEAR, that would work too. Okay. M-Dog likes the Minecraft background. Thank you. I love Minecraft. It's my favorite game of all time, except for Animal Crossing. And Borderlands. Okay. Question from DJ Margason. It's a cool name. Hi, would it be better to run Plex on my gaming shield or the XR700 for secure accessibility both internal and external? Are you talking about like an NVIDIA shield? Is that what he's talking about? Like one of the like cloud gaming things?
And is he running it as a client or as a server?
Yeah, let us know.
If he's talking about secure accessibility both internally and externally, then it sounds like he's trying to run it as a server. And I didn't know whether the Shield could actually do that, but between the Shield and the XR700, I'd recommend the XR700 just from pure processing power. Because if you're trying to run a Plex server, you need as much processing power as possible so that it can transcode things to different sizes when it needs to.
Totally. Yeah, and I've been doing a little bit of experimentation with some of the Shield products, and I've found that it's really important to have it hardwired. However you do that. I mean, if you want to run a cable, that's great. If you don't, I personally, I got a power line adapter because any blip in your connection is going to show on your screen. And, you know, if you're watching like Netflix, it's fine. But if you're playing a game, it really impacts the experience. So I would definitely suggest, in any case, hardwiring. And I'm doing it off of an XR500, and it's working okay. But it's a little slow with the input lag. He followed up and said it would be a server. I didn't even know you could use a Shield for a server.
Yeah. I didn't either. I would never have thought that it had enough power and memory to support acting as a Plex server, because that requires some pretty hefty resources.
Yeah, I would use the 700.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm getting some lag on the 500. Granted, I have a bunch of stuff running off of it. We're approaching Nighthawk Pro Gaming Lounge status at my house. We got a lot of smart devices, so might be looking into the 700.
Or just do what I did. Get a Ready NAS and run the Plex off of that. Then you have your storage, and you have something that has enough power to run Plex.
Totally. And some of the Ready NASs, they're coming down in price a lot, so
yeah,
it's worth getting. I have one. I use it a lot for just strictly storage. I don't run any servers off of it or anything, but it's great for me because I work with so many big files. So whenever I have to do a hard drive dump, I just send it all over to my NAS, and it's great. So can't suggest those enough. Question from PR617. I just got the R1 Netduma for the first time, and I need help. How to set it up? Are there any support numbers? So the R1 Netduma is not a NETGEAR product, but it does have Duma OS, so we can give you a little bit of knowledge on it.
I would go to, easiest thing for that is to go to netduma.com and go to their forums and ask for help there. Even though it does have the same, I would say, a sibling operating system, it's still, because the operating system is different from router to router, including the 300, 500, and 700. There's some little tweaks in the background. So for the R1, I think the best would be to go to the Netduma site.
Mm-hmm.
They, as far as the support number, I don't think that they do support through the telephone. They're kind of a smaller company, but they are super fast at getting back to you through the forum or email.
Yeah, definitely. But as far as setting it up, I mean, the knowledge we can really provide is, just based off of setting up any router, you're going to need to, just to dumb it down to the most base, language, you're going to need to plug it into a modem via Ethernet and plug it in from using an Ethernet cable from the modem to the router, plug it into the yellow wireless port, and then power everything on. If your modem is connected via DSL or coax to the wall, everything should turn on and connect. And you'll have the default SSID and password that came with the router to access the internet. And then for further setup, go to, I don't think that those products use router login, but it's like 192.144.
Yeah, I just wanted to err on the side of caution because I've never set up an R1 before, so
Yeah, totally.
just to make sure that you are getting the best help that you could possibly get. They're very, very good at responding.
Totally. Yeah, so give that a shot, and we'll keep going here. Justin says, I have stacking switches in ring topology. How would I connect to the internet router so that I could survive a single switch failure? We've got an enthusiast here in the chat. They have a rack of switches. That is nice. I don't have the answer for that. What would you guys say?
Wow.
Unfortunately, I don't either. I've never actually set up a ring topology with Ethernet stacking switches. And just having a single connection from the router into any one of the switches, I don't see any way that you would be able to guarantee failover there if that one switch that it's connected to goes down.
I have
any way you can guarantee that.
I have a special solution. Have we announced this yet? Can I talk about this? I think Michael knows what I'm holding.
Yep, I know what you're holding.
Can we talk about it?
I don't know if we announced it yet.
I think we have.
I think we have.
We have. No, we have. We have. The first post went live recently. Okay, so I have with me
good.
an Orbi LTE. And so what it is it's a modem router combo. And I do believe we have, I don't know if we have one yet, but, well, I shouldn't say that. I have an Orbi LTE. Basically what it is it's a modem router that uses a SIM card slot as a failover for your internet. So if your internet, I don't know if you guys can see, sorry. It's kind of, let me just get rid of my Minecraft background real quick. Hang on here. One second. Oh, wait, it's in Zoom. Just a second here. Choose virtual background. We will do none. Okay. So I have a Orbi LTE here, and it's a modem router, and it has a SIM card failover. So if your internet goes down or a switch were to fail, this could still broadcast off of LTE, which is just what you use on your phone and so on and so forth. So this would be a solution. It's a great product. Looks just like any other Orbi. That's really the only solution I have. I know that a lot of people running servers and so on are interested in this solution because it is one of the only foolproof failovers that I'm aware of on the market, and it's something that we as a company are interested in, a segment we're interested in going into. So yeah, quick little plug for this new product. I just happen to have one on my desk because I was doing some home photo shoots with it, and yeah, it's a great product, so check it out. I went on a total tangent there. I'm very sorry.
I don't know if that helps with ring of switches, but yeah, it definitely helps with internet failure.
Yeah, internet failure. I don't know about this. Yeah, he's an enthusiast.
That was a very good pivot. I don't know if we answered his question, but there we go.
No, I think the only way that he could guarantee with a single point of failure on the switches is if he actually gets a router that has 2 ports in it, and each of those ports are connected to a different switch. But then I think there's going to be some conflicts with IP addressing. But that's really the only way you could guarantee that that single point of failure isn't there. Otherwise, the main switch the router's connected to, if that goes down, then definitely the internet connection is going to go down.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because each switch is just connected to each other, and then one switch fails, it all fails.
Yep.
I got too excited. I'm in marketing, so any opportunity, I'm just trying to sell stuff. No, I'm kidding.
That's okay. There's going to be other people that want that.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dan wants me to give it away. Unfortunately, this one is a prototype. I don't think it works, but it's pretty.
I think it's a chassis. That's it.
It looks cool.
No.
All right, let's
M-Dog, I'll get your question in a little bit. Where are we at now?
Yeah, we are at.
I believe another question from Carl.
Yeah. He was just kind of wanting. It looks like he's kind of wanting confirmation on his previous question. Yeah. So the Nighthawk 2200, it's a solid product, but really none of our single routers are going to make it that far out of your house. If you're reading reviews that says it has good range, those are probably from consumers that are using it in a home or in an apartment. If you want it to go 75 feet outside the house, that's a different story. And just a single access point in your home, it's not going to reach that far. If it does, you'll be getting just barely any internet. It'll be pretty much unusable. So yeah, just to go back to that question, I would definitely suggest an extender of some sort, particularly the Orbi Outdoor.
I think you can't go wrong with that as an outdoor application. It's that's what it's designed for. Mm-hmm. And so, like Michael said, the humidity, the just condensation, the way that it's shielded, it's just built specifically for that purpose. So I would, if you can get signal, just outside the house to the extender, then you can get the extender to kick out that 75 feet out into the garden or the yard.
I wish I could pull another magic trick and bring one on screen, but they're really, really solid.
Yeah, the outdoor Orbi will definitely, cover far more than 75 feet outdoors. Mm-hmm. The only other option is basically what I've done in my house here, which is I have a Orbi in the middle of the house. I have an Orbi satellite on the inside wall that's directly adjacent to my yard. And with that, 75 feet away, I know I can get a good signal because I was in my truck 75 feet away just yesterday and running stuff off of my laptop. But you definitely would need something right inside that exterior wall to the yard or the outdoor Orbi, which will give you even better coverage because there's no obstructions at all.
Cool. So yeah, hope we answered your question a little bit more there. I will move on to the next question, and it looks like it is coming from Marlon.
Actually, I think Avinash added some additional information on that. It wasn't the SIP ID, it's the ISP ID and password. And yes, if you're setting up a PPPoE connection, if that's the type of connection that you have with your ISP, then it does require a username and password. And that's something that's supplied by your ISP. So you'll need to actually talk to them to get the username and password for that connection. But yeah, PPPoE requires you to enter that additional information.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Hopefully we helped you out, Avinash. Sorry I missed your question there. Okay, we have a question from Marlon who tuned in last week, and they're still having drops. Last week we asked him to clarify if he was using both, if he was having dropouts while using and while he's not using his, oh God, I just ripped my headphones out. While he is and is not using his VPN. And his answer is yes, it was not in access point mode. He changed it and it did not help. The only thing he's found is that is the DNS events in Event Viewer. Any idea? I'm not sure what a DNS event is.
That's just a naming whenever something tries to resolve a URL to an IP address. That's what DNS does. It actually does the resolving.
Okay.
So like google.com is actually an IP address.
Gotcha.
And that event in the event viewer shouldn't cause a problem. I mean, that's just an event. It's not a warning or an error that's happening.
Just kind of a typical use case for internet.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, further ideas for why you're getting dropouts. I don't quite recall exactly what we suggested last week. Man, I'm just trying to think.
Do we remember which router he was using?
Yeah, remind us what router you're using, and we can loop back on your question and let you know if there's a known issue with that router. We have been able to provide some people with beta firmware for certain products. So if it is one of those products that we are aware has a known issue, we might be able to help you out with some beta firmware. But yeah, let us know, and we'll try to help you out. Question from Mohammed. Will Wi-Fi 6 support old devices or present devices that do not have Wi-Fi 6? Answer is yes, but not to the fullest potential that it could. So yes, your devices that have Wi-Fi 5, Wi-Fi 4, everything beyond, they will connect to a Wi-Fi 6 connection. The biggest perk you're getting when you use a Wi-Fi 6 device with a Wi-Fi 6 router is going to be battery. That's one big thing. I know that Apple mentioned in their keynote that Wi-Fi 6 is going to give you better battery life on the iPhone itself, which is really, really great, especially now that everybody's sheltering in place. We're all at home using Wi-Fi on our cell phones, so that's a big perk. But, oh, my blinds just closed for no reason. Sorry. Sorry for the color shift. But aside from that, with just any devices, Wi-Fi 6, the bands on the router are going to have more capacity. So you can connect more devices without bogging down your network, essentially. Anything to add to that?
Nope, that pretty much hits the two top points on Wi-Fi 6.
Cool. All right, next question is from Ali. Where is the patch for an RX 80 for porting list issues?
Somewhere around. No, I don't know the answer to that one. Sorry.
Looking around
for the answer. For it. Let's see. Darren, do you have a list of where that could be, or if we do have an update on that?
I would have to do some digging to see if that is coming up for a patch firmware. If it's out on a firmware, it'll just take a little bit for me to get that info.
It looks like the team's already looking at that. I'm checking with a colleague on this for you. So, Ali, we'll get back to you in just a second. We should be able to have that answer
cool.
for you.
Yeah, that's definitely an answer we're going to have to talk to the product team about. We don't really have dates for patch releases and updates on hand, but we might be able to help you out based off of what Christine's able to find out. Okay, question from Dan. Are you going to do a giveaway, Alec, on the Orbi? I cannot give this away. I would get fired very fast.
Yeah, that is that's a negative on that, Ghost Rider.
That is an affirmative no. Okay. Let's see. Ricky B asks a question. Check the forums and was not able to find anything. The Nighthawk X6S AC3600 tri-band Wi-Fi router model R7960P. Wired and Wi-Fi devices connect only to Wi-Fi. And devices are dropping out randomly. I have to cycle to get the power back, or to get the Wi-Fi back. And I'm assuming he just wants to know, how can he fix this? There's a variety of things that could be wrong.
Yeah.
Anybody want to dive into all the possibilities? I have a few in mind, but you guys go ahead.
No. Go ahead. You've got this.
Okay, I actually don't have a few in mind.
Oh.
I mean, my go-to is like check your cables, but I feel like that's such a cop-out answer.
Yeah, I think with this, it's very strange that your wired devices are connected only to the Wi-Fi. And then you're getting random dropouts.
He might be talking about the attached devices list where it shows wired devices showing up as wireless.
Yes.
That's my guess, but that might just be a graphic error.
Could be. And then the power cycle it back on.
Right, or it's actually the Wi-Fi devices are actually dropping out randomly, but his wired devices are still working fine. And if he power cycles it, then the Wi-Fi devices connect back up again.
Yeah.
Which would be basically a loss of Wi-Fi disconnect. And in that case, there's multiple things you can try. One of them is you can try a factory reset on it, reset it up, see if that doesn't fix it, if there's some problems that were in the firmware. You can also manually download the latest firmware and then reflash it with that in case there is corruption in the firmware as well. It's definitely, if the Wi-Fi signal itself is going out, then yeah, there is something going on in the router, most likely in the software side of things. So those would be the first two things to test. As long as your wired devices are still working and the wireless isn't, then we know it definitely is the wireless portion that's stopping.
Yeah, and then something that we've suggested to people before is it could be overheating. Always a possibility. I think that one is kind of a issue that people don't think about. I personally hadn't thought about that until Michael mentioned it. But make sure it's in a well-aerated space. I don't think you can see mine on screen, but I have mine right here. So it's like on a table in a very open room, right? And not only is that going to help you with cooling, but there's not going to be as many, walls around it. Or if it's in a cabinet, you're not going to have to go through the cabinet. So there's multiple benefits to having it in a very open space. So I would also encourage trying that if nothing else works.
Yeah, especially if you're getting the random dropouts, which means that it could be randomly overheating on a. The randomness is not so random. It's where it's overheating, but the amount of time that it takes between those two cycles of it overheating and not overheating is where you're getting sort of that random dropout. That would be a really good place to kind of start. Also, to just, software is not 100%, infallible. Sometimes, especially when you're connecting it up, if you did have problems with connection, you could have, a packet drop and your firmware could be corrupted. So I would also suggest factory resetting, downloading the latest firmware, factory resetting, and then reflashing with the latest firmware, and see if that helps. And also, do a check, make sure that it's not in a closed space. These things do a lot of processing power, and to route to all the devices. So it's going to need a little bit of some space to breathe. I love this question. Okay, so what's the difference? So I run IPv6, which is a 128 encryption, as opposed to IPv4, which is 32-bit encryption. What's the difference? It means that more information is being sent encrypted in 6 than 4. 4, in theory, sends more packets, so in theory it's faster, but it's not sending as much information, so it takes it 4 times to send the same information as 6. So I would say technically 6 is faster.
Except 4 actually ends up being slightly faster when you're talking about using NAT. And since MDog's asking about using it internally, there's really no reason to be using IPv6 internally. That's mainly to be used outside on the internet because you want the higher levels of encryption. Yes. And the fact that they were running out of IP addresses for IPv4.
I've seen, like, Xbox recommends 6, and I've seen a huge world of difference running 6 on the Xbox, especially on the Xbox X, because it's able to run all of the chat. It's able to run, connection to the server a lot better because there's a lot more information that's being sent back and forth.
Cool.
And as long as your ISP actually supports IPv6, most of them do. But if you're in a tiny regional one, you'd want to check to make sure that they support it.
Right, and is switching over your router to 6 isn't going to do you any good if your modem can't go to 6 either.
Yes.
So check with your ISP first.
Cool. Okay. Well, there you go, M-Dog. It's a classic question that we've gotten almost every stream, so we have a special place on our hearts for that question. So we apologize if that was a sincere and innocent question. All right. Question from Bad Nighthawk. Is that about us? I hope not. I hope you have a good Nighthawk. Are 5G access points available to the public yet? The Fast Mile one. I'm not aware of that product. I don't know if any of you guys are. I haven't heard of a Fast Mile product.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
The closest thing I could think of that would be like a mile product would be the wireless air bridge, which can extend your Wi-Fi by up to a mile, which is like our favorite tagline ever in marketing. But Fast Mile, I haven't heard of that.
But I do like the sound of that.
Yeah, maybe we'll use that. Maybe we'll copyright that before you do. No, I'm kidding. All right. And then he had a follow-up question. We'll jump to that just real quick since we're on the topic. Is there a fix for the Nighthawk M1100 constantly restarting? I have one. It randomly restarts constantly. I'm not aware. Like I said earlier, we don't have exact dates for these. It might be something that Christine can look into in the control room. But something we always mention to people who are having routers restart, and something we already mentioned on the stream even, is putting it in a well-aerated space. They do have a built-in restart feature to protect it from overheating. So if it is overheating, it's going to restart. That's just a safety feature that all of our routers have. So
yeah, and with the M1, usually, because it's so small, you kind of tuck it away. Mm-hmm. The other thing is it could. My brother has an M1, and we recently had an issue with the battery. So it could be that your battery is actually not holding as well of a charge as it used to, and you might want to look at replacing the battery.
Yeah, very true. These things don't last forever, especially batteries. The hardware should last for many years, but the batteries, they do go. So I don't know if we sell those ourselves, but if not, you can just look up the model number, and I'm sure you can find it somewhere.
Yeah, you could also look up the model number. You can also look up the, he looked up the battery, what kind of battery it was using. Yeah, and went to a global retailer that pretty much everybody knows, with a big smile on their boxes.
Yeah. And I definitely recommend, if you're going to third-party person to purchase a replacement battery, make sure it's from a well-known battery manufacturer and not an unknown one, because there can be problems with batteries that go into devices like that, where the battery slowly overheats and expands over time because its thermal circuitry isn't very good. And I've seen that happen in the past. So make sure it's a quality battery, and you should be fine.
Yeah, I would say when it comes to especially lithium or those advanced batteries, cheapest is not always the best. So
totally.
One
additional comment for Bad Nighthawk. He was actually talking about 4G and 5G cellular, not 5G on our wireless. And the answer is no. We don't have any product like that yet.
Well, that's a great idea.
We did.
Oh, yes.
Well, we have announced, and this is something we used to get a lot of questions about, but has since died down. We did announce the M5. We don't have a release date for that yet, but that is going to be a Wi-Fi 6 5G mobile access point. If that's something you're interested in, stay tuned. It's something we want to announce because we have announced it, but we want to announce a release date because everybody's always asking about it. Yeah. So we'd love to let you guys know when that is public information that we can share, but as of now, it's not something we can discuss. All right. So, a question from Ali again. What is the best setting for an S800 for gaming? Should I turn valid IGMPv3 IP header on? Should I turn block unknown multicast addresses and broadcast filtering on? I'm not aware of any of these settings. I didn't really even know you could tinker with the S8000. I thought it was more of just a unmanaged switch. I think you might be referring to settings that are on your router.
No.
Is that correct?
No,
the S8000 actually does have some basic.
It does have.
Okay. Yes.
But it operates mostly as unmanaged, but you can make some adjustments to it.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, now I'm interested because I have one.
Yeah, turning those on wouldn't hurt. Basically, all the things that he's talking about are pretty much designed to stop broadcast messages from being spammed out to all the other devices on your network. So it also means those broadcast messages that are coming from other devices aren't being spammed to your gaming machine while you're playing it. So I don't think any of those settings would actually hurt it. Honestly, in a local LAN, I don't think it's going to make a difference one way or the other. But you could try turning those on, checking your gameplay, checking your pings, see if it helps at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these things, you just want to turn them on just to know that you have them and you have the best possible settings. Where would you change the settings on these? Because I'm actually curious myself.
You can log directly into the S8000's admin GUI, the same way you can the other managed switches. And then it's got some basic functionality in there that you can tinker with.
Okay, yep. I'll have to do that myself. I want to turn the LED off, the big one, because it's in my room.
Well, you can. Yeah, I have it off on mine.
Well, that's good to know because I would very much like to do that because I keep unplugging it every night before I go to bed.
No, you just log in the GUI and turn off as you control every light. You can even control the lights that are connected to the ports.
Yeah, so those you can toggle with the switch on the back, but the one in the front you can't. So, good to know.
You should be able to turn that off as well.
Cool. I will be doing that immediately after the stream. All right, let's see. Question from Justin. Can I set up lag groups over 2 different stacking switches over to an internet router to avoid single switch failure? This is another question that is beyond my understanding, so I will default to one of you guys.
I'm going to tap out of this
one. Yeah, I think that goes beyond what we can actually cover here because that's definitely the SMB business switches that he's setting up, and that requires a lot more configuration than I think any of us have experience with.
Yeah, Justin, if you want to get in touch with somebody who is, a little more knowledgeable on that specific scenario that you're working with, I'll have Christine drop the email for you to chat with, and we can put you in touch with somebody that has better knowledge about that. We don't work with that switch personally, so can't help you too much.
No, I know the perfect person that could answer it, but I won't say his name. I'll let Christine pass that on to him.
There's some smart people at NETGEAR. They can help you out.
With switches, a lot.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's see here. Next question is from Marlon. Kind of following up on the questions about dropouts. He has a Nighthawk Mesh MR62 router. I'm assuming you also have a single satellite. The DNS warning...
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. The DNS warning seems to happen at the same time as the drops. So I'm curious, Marlon, because you have a mesh system, are these only happening on the satellite or is it also happening on the router? You could have a bad connection between your router and your satellite, assuming you have 2. So if this is only happening on the satellite, you might want to do setup again. What we typically encourage doing is plugging in the satellite like very close to the router and doing the WPS connection and then unplugging it and moving it somewhere else. That really ensures that you get a solid link between the 2. Let us know if that's the situation and we can further help you out there.
Yeah.
And then Ricky, who had the M1 that was randomly restarting, he says it's underneath a table in open space. So that voids my heat suggestion. So I would then go to Ben's battery suggestion, because I would say that that's probably what's happening.
No, this is the person with the R7960, not the M1.
Oh, did I get it mixed up? My mistake.
Yeah, but still,
Michael's suggestion of reflashing the firmware.
Reflashing the firmware.
Yeah. Is it possible to overload it with too many devices? It's possible to push it to its limits, which will also cause some overheating. It depends. Like, what's too many devices? Like, that seems to be a matter of opinion for some people. Some people think 10 is too many devices. Some people, think that 40 is too many devices. 40 is quite a bit of devices, but you're probably in an average house going to see between 20 and 30 devices. So we have most of our products to be able to handle that. But yeah, what are you thinking as far as how many devices you have going?
Yeah, and it really depends on what type of devices they are, because you can have a lot of devices connected up to your router, up to 254 it'll give out IP addresses to. And if they're pretty much just static devices most of the time, then your number can definitely increase beyond 20 or 30, 40, even 50. But it depends on the load of the devices, what they're trying to do. Like if you have security cameras that are always running, when you're streaming over-the-top video, Netflix, that sort of thing, all of those things add additional load. A lot of devices, though, bare bones network usage, so they're pretty much just sitting out there and they'll ping your router every now and then. They don't require a lot of resources. And Ben's right. Most houses now normally have like 20 or 30. In my house, I probably have 40 devices hooked up, and I'm having no problems with it. But a lot of them are dumb or static devices that are rarely doing things.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. All right, well, we can keep on going here if that answers your question. Question from Mohammed. Does Wi-Fi 6 support public IP? Presently, I'm using 20 megabyte per second internet connection, and my router is the AC 1200 wireless. I don't know how to say this. How do you guys say it? MU-MIMO? Gigabit router.
Yep.
Is it
Very
wise
good.
to
You got it.
buy and upgrade with the NETGEAR Wi-Fi 6 router? So with 20 megabyte per second internet, that's going to be your bottleneck for speed with any router that you buy. I mean, pretty much every router that is from the last 10 years goes up to 20 megabytes per second, right? But one perk that you would see with a Wi-Fi 6 router is going to be those higher capacity bands. So if you have a ton of devices connecting to it and that's bogging down your network, it might be worth going to Wi-Fi 6. But if you just have a couple devices like a phone, a laptop, an Xbox, and that's it,
you're probably not going to see much.
You're not going to see much of a difference. It's going to look cooler. Our Wi-Fi 6 routers look really cool, so if you're into cool looking stuff, you can get one. But otherwise, I really couldn't justify it for you unless you had faster internet speeds.
Yeah, and also for the question on does Wi-Fi 6 support public IPs? Yes, and pretty much any router out there now has to support public IPs, because you can order a static public IP address from your ISP. They usually charge more for them, but yes, you can definitely have that. Most of the time, you don't need it unless you're running your own web server and you need a static IP and you're not doing IP translation using one of the IP translation services. But yes, all routers can handle public IPs at this point.
Cool. All right. Well, we're a little over halfway done now. Sorry we started a little late, but to everybody watching the stream, I just want to remind you, if you're enjoying the show, please drop a like. It helps bring more viewers here and helps us help more people. And we love helping you guys out. So if you're having a good time, show us some love. But let's keep going.
Gonzalo has a great suggestion.
Yes,
where you can turn off the LEDs during the night. We will definitely put that towards product and see if they can, do something.
Yeah, that's an awesome suggestion.
We're halfway there. You can turn the lights off on pretty much all of our routers, but it's a manual function.
Yeah.
You go in and you turn them on or off. Having a scheduler that can be set, or even a light detection LED there that can pick out the light and turn it on or off depending on how much light is in the room, would be a cool idea to add.
Yeah,
Totally.
it would. I know that I have my networking stuff in the living room, and I actually prefer to have the lights on because it semi illuminates the room in a green LED.
It's a night light.
And it gives you that fuzzy feeling that it's still working.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Chief Beto says that he has a X6 connected to a CM1150. It's got a 1,000 plan with Xfinity, only getting 100 on his PS4 and 200 over Wi-Fi to his iPhone XR. Why not at least 700? Well, Darren, do you want to take a swing at this, or it's our old friend, the PS4 Pro?
Yeah. The network card isn't that great on the PS4. It may not get the full bandwidth, but I mean, are you seeing any type of lag or any type of issues using that at 200 megabits? If not, I wouldn't really worry about that if you're still getting a good connection. And he said his iPhone. Do you get it 1,000 megabits on any other device over Wi-Fi? Have you tried anything, or is it you just tried those two devices? Like, we need to know if it's the device or if it's the router.
And also with the iPhone, make sure that you're connecting to the 5 gigahertz and not the 2.4 gigahertz, because depending on interference, things like that, the 200 or the 2.4 gigahertz, you could possibly see around 200 megabits a second, and that wouldn't be that surprising. Even though normally you'd expect more than that, that's still possible. If you were going on the 5, though, and you're in the same room when you're doing your testing, you definitely should see much faster than 200.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of any other suggestions. I know it's really hard to...
Actually,
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, actually, wiring in a PC to the router and then doing a straight speed test from that point is the best first step, because then that'll guarantee whether or not it's a problem in the router, or whether you can remove the router from the equation and say, okay, it's something else in the system and it's not the router that's actually slowing things down. Because when you're wired in directly with the PC, you should be getting not 1,000, but you should be seeing much higher than that. When I was testing in my lab and I had a gig connection in there, I was seeing anywhere between 700 and 900 speed with a straight wired connection.
Yeah, totally. And also with Xfinity, I recently upgraded to 600, and I just ran a speed test. I'm only seeing about 300 out of them, which means that after this, I'm going to have a conversation with Xfinity. But their reliability as to their speeds are questionable as well. So you may want to track it over a period of days and see what your speeds are over a period of time. I know that I hit 600, 650. I've got a CM1000, and it's rated well past it can handle up to 1,000 or whatever. And I'm still seeing variations between 670 and 250 from Xfinity over the last probably about like 9-10 days. So yeah.
Also, I have a couple more suggestions for that. One of them is make sure that you're testing in off hours. Because depending on where you're at, if you're in a fairly congested environment, lots of other people around that also have your Xfinity plan, then you're all sharing the same connection, and that can definitely bottleneck your speeds at certain times. Where I live, I don't have that problem because there's so few people around. I'm always hitting my max speed, but I know in inner cities, things like that, you can definitely feel the difference depending on the time of the day.
Yeah, totally. Something we used to bring up a lot when we first launched these streams was congestion, right? Because everybody's working from home right now, and so on and so forth. So internet in general is becoming a little less reliable. I think there's been big improvements made since we started sheltering in place, but it's still a reality. There's so many more people using internet right now at home than is typical. So that's just another consideration.
And of course, one other suggestion is when you're actually doing your testing, make sure nothing else is actually pulling stuff off of the internet. No one else in the house is streaming, video or anything like that, because they'll be chewing up part of your maximum bandwidth, so you won't get the full realistic numbers. So the best thing is don't have anyone using the internet when you run your tests. Mm-hmm. So do it at 11 o'clock at night. That's a good time. Far fewer people will be using the internet. Pick the best time to see what your maximum is that you can possibly get.
Cool. All right, let's keep it going. We're pretty well caught up. We have a little bit more from a few more questions here. Kevin Hart asks, I see that there is a new firmware for the Orbi Wi-Fi 6. However, when I request it via the Orbi app, it states that no new firmware is available. Should I do manual or just wait until Orbi sees that it is available? Sounds like there's just a little bug. I'm not sure there is a new software available for Orbi Wi-Fi 6.
Yeah, and I would recommend definitely wait until the Orbi actually sees it as available. It is possible something got put up on the site and was mislabeled. It's happened in the past where they've put a firmware up there and the numbering on it got off. And so online it looks like it exists, but in your router it doesn't actually show up because it ends up being actually an earlier version number than what your router sees. So I would wait until it's actually available. Or if you have a particular problem and we have a beta version, that we're actually sending that beta version out to you.
Yeah, I went and checked, and we had a hotfix posted a week ago, so maybe the hotfix isn't showing up, and that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And did you happen to see what the hotfix is actually fixing? Because I know a lot of times it's fixing issues that don't affect 99% of the people.
It was just security fixes.
Ah, okay. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I guess to boil that down, just give it some time. It will all become clear very soon. Okay.
And Ricky had a very funny comment there. A surefire way to get rid of the lights is use black duct tape. Well, quick and interesting story there. NETGEAR used to have a router that they put out that had a dome on the top. And the dome was clear, and it had a set of blue lights going all the way around it. And when it was running, the blue lights would spin and spin, kind of like if, police car was trying to stop you. And it drove people crazy, or not everyone, but when they had it in their bedroom, having this blue light constantly spinning. So as a quick fix for that, for about a year after that, all new ones were sent out with a black cover that had adhesive underneath it that you could put over the top of the dome to turn off the lights.
Wow.
And so same thing as black duct tape. In the next firmware upgrade to it, they then made it so you could push down on the dome to turn it on or off. But for that short period of time, yep, it was the equivalent of black duct tape.
Yeah, it's funny. I do a similar thing in my room for all the tech that I have. I just duct tape everything that has light, because I like to sleep in complete darkness. So I duct taped like my TV. I duct taped all my power strips. It works,
So instead of putting a mask on you, you put a mask on everything else.
Exactly. Because I don't want to wear it. I don't want to wear like an eye mask. I'll wear a face mask, but not an eye mask. Okay, let's see.
I think we're at Thomas.
Thomas, yeah.
Yep.
Thomas had a question about a beta software for the RBS 50Y. Just giving an update. Tech support contacted me, but there's no resolution yet. Well, hopefully you're able to figure it out pretty soon. Yeah, some of these things are kind of finicky. We have to talk to certain product managers to figure out exactly what's wrong with whatever you're having issues with. So hopefully you're able to get a solution there soon. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Red flashing lights at night can cause me to have a blackout. Well, you should definitely get a roll of duct tape then.
Close your eyes.
Definitely, there's solutions for that. Duct tape, close your eyes.
Actually, we
And it depends. Are the red flashing lights coming from the police outside your window?
Oh no.
If so, I
Where are
guarantee you're going to be awake.
flashing lights coming from? If they're coming from your router, that usually means that something is out as well. So might want to check on that. Allie, one of the good things about this is that we do have a quick response team based off of people that come into this chat, and we find that we need to reach out to them. So it's not going to be 3 months. So I pretty much will guarantee that you'll get contacted within today.
Cool. So it looks like we're all caught up, and we don't have Angelo is not here today, so we don't have any filler questions. So does anybody have some filler questions? I don't have any. I can't think of any.
Well, since all of us are gamers, how many of us have actually built their own PC? And have you built more than one? Greater than 6? Greater than 10? But Ben, I'm sure you have. What have you done?
PCs. I built a ton of PCs up until about 2010, when I switched over to Macs because I was a mobile developer on Mac, and I had to have a Mac instead of instead of a PC. So I haven't built since then, but I built every PC that I had from probably 2000 to about 2010.
Nice.
And all the micro upgrades that go in between as well.
Oh yeah, expensive micro upgrades.
Yeah,
exactly. And also those, like, my favorite was always the upgrade that was the dumb upgrade that led to the bigger upgrade.
Yes.
Where I need to upgrade my sound card because for some reason my speakers don't work with the sound card, and then so I run down the store, go grab the sound card, come back, pop it in, and then it's like, oh, I don't have space for this, or my power pack, it exceeds the power, so now guess what? Looks like we're getting a new motherboard. Well, since I'm replacing the motherboard, might as well replace the CPU and the memory at the same time, and that like $70 upgrade just quickly like spiraled out of control.
yeah. No, I feel you there. It's funny. So you mentioned Macs, and I thought about the Hackintosh era and how it's going to die because Apple is going to have their own processors now in all the Macs, and their software is going to move towards the native Apple processors. So you can't make a Hackintosh anymore in a couple of years.
No, yeah, I have some, like, as I'm been a long time Mac user now. It's like 10 years of using a Mac, and there's a certain portion of it that I at first moving over to the Mac, I was like, oh, I've got to move my entire hard drive to a new hard drive, and cloning and ghosting it, super easy, and I was like, take that, PC, because Windows would always like, hey, it looks like you changed one file. Is this a new entire computer? You'll have to register, call Redmond immediately.
Yeah.
And the Mac's, operating system is like, let it ride,
Yeah.
And but now, that was really kind of before this whole ecosystem of Mac, iPads and iPhones and that sort, and now I just kind of feel that PC people were always like, well, Macs are just like BMWs or Mercedes, just kind of, fancy sedans, but not really actually being, much more powerful. And I feel that that's starting to kind of come true, especially the more that they kind of draconianly like lock down their system, the more I really kind of want to go back to PC.
Yeah, no, totally. My first Mac that I've ever used was here at NETGEAR. I have a Mac, a work computer. It's a Mac, and I wanted to learn Mac because so much of the creative industry is done on Mac. Photoshop,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff is typically done on Mac. So this is my first experience with it, and I like it a lot. You can't tinker with it as much as a PC though, and if you like tinkering, it's not quite as good for that. But
yeah, any sort of like tinkering or wanting to do any sort of speed upgrade, you're really sort of limited.
Possible.
It's just not possible.
Everything's integrated into the board. It's all soldered in, so you can't really do anything. What I can say about Mac that I really like though is I think the user interface is miles better than Windows.
Oh yeah,
it's really nice to use. But yeah, I mean compatibility is an issue too. As you all are aware on the stream, we do have periodic audio issues when I'm streaming, and that is because I'm using a Mac. It's my most powerful computer, and these streams are pretty intensive, so I want to use the Mac when I'm doing it. But it's a little finicky sometimes. But overall, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, it's getting bumped right now. So let me try to make some adjustments here with my camera. Any plans for having the Duma OS on non-gaming routers? Not at this point in time. It's really sort of...
And it wouldn't make sense because that is the differentiator for gaming routers.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's really purpose built. It's like shoving a big block engine into a Chevy Citation. I mean, yeah, sure, it can be done, but it really doesn't fit the bill for
but
what
should
you're
it
doing.
be done?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it really is what makes the Nighthawk Pro Gaming brand. Something that we've been pretty open about on the streams is that the Nighthawk Pro Gaming routers currently use the same infrastructure as other routers that we have in our lineup, but the differentiator is going to be Duma OS, and that's why it's a Nighthawk Pro Gaming router. That's why it's going to cost more than the counterpart that it is based off of, because it comes with that awesome software that we are obviously licensing. So there's the explanation for all of that. But I don't know. There's probably a Reddit thread on how to do it. I wouldn't encourage doing that though. As a
and then I was going to make a comment on Windows and having to, when you change one component, Windows suddenly thinks you've created a whole new system.
Yeah.
Luckily, with Windows 10, that problem has gone away because I fought with that problem through every version of Windows. And when I finally got Windows 10 and I went and I replaced basically all of my hardware but kept the Windows 10 OS on the drive and popped it in, when it recognized all the new hardware, configured itself, and it didn't require me to go and contact Microsoft. So after many years of pain, I was blown away that it actually worked the way it should have.
Yeah, it was really terrible for a long period of time where, the paper Clippy would pop up. Looks like.
Oh my God, I love Clippy.
I kind of miss Clippy.
He's the best. We got a really awesome comment here. I wanted to just read it real quick from Thomas.
Yeah.
He says, I spent half of my military re-enlistment bonus to build an Intel 386 based PC in 1986. That is, I'm sure at the time it wasn't awesome because your wife wasn't happy, but look, that's a cool story.
Yeah, and also...
I just hope he gave the other half of his enlistment bonus to his wife to make her happy.
Yeah. Well, also, Intel 386, man, that was like... That was a pricey machine back then too,
Yeah,
those
you're
were
not playing around.
Yeah. She's on Salim says can't get upload speed on my console. Need wired, and maybe what game are you trying to play?
And what upload speeds are you actually seeing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if you're looking just
1 or 2 are bad. If you're getting 0.1, that's horrible.
Yeah, and then Praise. I put Windows 10 on my MacBook and running it. I used to run a split where I was running Windows on my Mac and it was working great. I have ventured into a couple of PC laptops, so I'm now not running that split anymore on my Mac. But yeah, it'll run Windows fantastic.
Yeah, I haven't done that,
and
but
I'm
interested in it.
Yeah, I actually at one time had to run a bunch of different versions of OSs when I was doing QA testing. And I had a tower system that actually had the removable trays. And I'd had full installs of each one of the OSs on individual trays. And I would just pop the tray in, boot it up. Now I have the new OS. And it worked pretty well. Always make sure you keep an image of each one of them.
Let's go ahead and answer this question here.
Yeah, XR500, good. PlayStation 4 hardwired, probably the best that you're going to get out of the PlayStation 4. Playing FIFA, which is peer-to-peer, and peer-to-peer is going to be, what do they always say?
Well, it's limited to the least common denominator. Whoever's got the slowest system is what you're actually going to see.
And it's not WYSIWYG. It's like what your mileage is probably going to vary.
They vary.
Getting 1.5, but speed tests on my computer show 50 up. Yeah, so what you're getting is you're connecting to another peer, and wherever this peer is, usually on FIFA, Madden to also NHL, any of the sports games are really kind of peer-to-peer. You're not connecting to a server, say, like in Call of Duty, where you're all collectively connecting to an EA server that's serving the level. What you're doing is you're connecting to the other person, and if that other person is connected, through like a terrible connection in the backwoods of Arkansas or Madagascar or Siberia, you are going to get terrible speeds, terrible connections, and terrible lag. It's just the nature of that. That's why your early FPS shooters like Doom, you would connect to somebody that would be, quote, the host, and then everybody would connect to that. Usually the host would usually get the best sort of KD because they would be able to, because they're hosting, they're getting the best connection.
Exactly.
Everybody else that connected, further away you are, the worse off your lag was. And it's the same here. That's why first-person shooters moved to a server-based solution. Sports games really haven't done that quite yet. But PlayStation 4, if you're a fan of this stream, you know that we've talked about the woes with the PlayStation 4's network card. But it's they do have some for some game modes, but I would be very cautious. What you would want to do if you want to check your settings is one, check if you're using your geo filter, and are you connecting to this person within your geo filter range, and the second is the anti-buffer bloat. The anti-buffer bloat, and just make sure that you're not throttling yourself too much. I know that I recently I had just upgraded to the latest firmware, and I was before it was. I think it was in reverse. So if you wanted to reserve 20%, you'd have to reserve 80% of your bandwidth, and I think it's switched now. And so I was on the wrong side of that that equation where I was actually throttling 80% of my speed, and I'm like, why do I have such a terrible connection? So just take a look at the anti-buffer bloat as well. That may also help.
Yeah, and if it's a peer-to-peer.
Also, I just did a quick lookup, and it looks like that EA has been limiting the service on a lot of the FIFA. This particular note says, as of February 29th, they disabled FIFA 20 match creation, so game services would be limited. So you might also be being limited by them slowly phasing out the FIFA servers.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, that's
some
relevant.
Some games, like I know that Atlas crushed down from 4 PVEs down to 1 PVE server. So you're just gonna have to double check with and take a look at what they're doing as far as game support. But yeah, check those settings. Check the geo-filtered and anti-buffer bloat first. And if you're not seeing issues with other games, then it's probably FIFA.
Yeah.
Dog host with the lag switch. Yeah, in Call of Duty. God.
Yeah, I remember the good old days. I just to kind of tell a little story. What I used to do back when I was a kid and I'd play Call of Duty on my Xbox 360, I had like a little tiny ottoman in my room that I'd sit on, and I remember I have like my Astro headset, and like whenever somebody else has host and you die, you always blame the host. You're like, oh, the host, trash host, like the host sucks, like it wasn't me, like I'm really good. And like I remember the lag switches, and people had their there was a certain word for like a hacked Xbox, but like people would host like hacked lobbies. You can get like level like 70 immediately and like unlock all the guns. Those are the good old days.
Yeah, and also
JTAG, that's what it was called, JTAG.
Yeah, and then deliberately lagging as host. God, that was just like that exploit was like all over the place, where the game's running great for you, but you're lagging it out to everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah, unfair. I'm glad they're doing servers now, because
and it's not like I have always thought that why are you cheating on online gameplay, because you're really only cheating yourself. I'm look at how awesome I am, but in reality you still suck.
There wasn't even like
they just like causing other people pain.
Yeah.
There wasn't even like an MMR or like an ELO system on Call of Duty at the time. Like you could just be starting out and like matchmake with a prestige 10. So it's not like there's any like pride in like winning the game, really.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter. It's not like a ranked system.
Right. We're like, oh, I've got I'm like prestige 10 and I'm like crushing noobs. It just I've never gotten why people
like doing that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, when you're a kid, it's like
it doesn't do anything for you. It's I don't know. It's all built on your accomplishments are built on sand. Also.
Yeah, I think when you're a kid, you just want to win. You're like, oh, I won. Yes.
Yeah. So we've got about like 25 minutes left.
Yeah.
We're caught up. And is there? And we don't have any filler questions because Angelo's out.
Classic.
I
guess the question I would ask, because we're kind of on the subject of nostalgic games, what was like the game? How should I explain this? what was your first gaming obsession? Like, what game did you really get into? What was the first one? I know for me, it was definitely COD 4. I was a huge COD 4 player. I played a ton of it back in elementary school. I remember I had to convince my parents to let me play it because it was rated M, and I was like 12 years old. I was like, please, like, I just want to play it. But that was my first one, I'd say.
Tough to figure out which would be the first one. There have been so many that have ended up being a major focus for a while. Playing Age of Mythology was one that I really got into with my friends, loving the fact that as you got towards in-game, it would lag to the point of maybe 1 frame every 3 seconds, to spending way too many hours playing Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. Just a lot of different things.
Totally.
I have
right here.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. You got
Go
the
ahead.
Diablo
That's my
shirt.
answer.
Excellent.
Classic.
I have like 4 games that I guess I really obsessed at different periods. First one was XCOM 2: Terror from the Deep.
Oh,
yes. I remember attempting
game.
to beat that game the entire summer and not getting anywhere, where my base would just get overrun by the aliens and that was it. They'd figure out where I was, and I was dead in the water. And then I played a mod of CS:GO or Counter-Strike called Day of Defeat, which was a World War II game, and I obsessed about that, and I played, early days of esports with that. And then on console, I'd have to say I obsessed on Mass Effect 2. I played everything. Mass Effect 2 is the only game that I've ever, I played the ending and I was like, that is not how I want it to end. I had to go back to an earlier save so I could save a couple of characters that were going to die. And then I played recently, I have to say, Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I've been trying to unlock all the operators and trying to get my golden guns, and so I put in a few hours. I'll say that. But also, I know the I know the grind that Michael was talking about with Diablo 2 and Diablo 3.
Yep, and still play it. And I have a friend that every time a new season opens up, within 2 or 3 days, he's Paragon level 900. I think he just doesn't sleep.
Yeah, I don't like. I recently played. I've been having a love-hate relationship with Atlas. I recently got back onto. They launched a whole new map and a server, and by the time I got the upload, the update and logged on, there were already people that were sailing around with the biggest ship in the game, and I'm like, how is this possible? How have you put in 12 hours already? It's crazy. I don't know.
Let's answer this question before I change my answer. Armin has the Orbi Mesh Wi-Fi 5 with the Alexa speaker, so that's the Orbi voice. But since there is a big difference on the Nighthawk, does it have mesh built in to any of those gaming routers? Okay, so I think what he's mentioning is that I think he's talking about Duma OS and how it's only offered on the NPG routers. They don't have mesh built. Well, I guess they do kind of. You're gonna have to get a kit.
You can connect up to mesh extenders.
Yeah.
And we do have a kit, the XM570, which comes with the XR500 and the EX7000 mesh, Nighthawk mesh. Any of the Nighthawk meshes will work in extending out the MPG routers, but it really depends on what you're trying to focus your networking for. I mean, the Orbi mesh with the Alexa speaker is an awesome system in itself. It just depends. If you're more gaming focused, then you know, and especially if you're a competitive gamer, then yeah, then the MPG is probably going to be more of your direction. But you'll have to get a separate. If you don't buy the kit, you'll have to get a separate extender, a mesh extender.
There you go.
Wizardry, Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh yes.
Holy cow, that is a march down nostalgia lane.
Hey, but Leisure Suit Larry rocked.
EverQuest was awesome. Like, and EverQuest 2. EverQuest 2. I remember when it came out, I was excited and I put it on my PC, and I could barely run it on low settings for everything, which was I think it was the first time I had to do a major update on one of my PCs, and I upgraded it to, like, at the time, to the best possible things. I spent a good amount of money upgrading my PC to play EverQuest 2, and once I got it all set up, I could play it on medium.
And Vanessa, that's the reason why they used to call it EverCrack.
Yeah,
they because you're still hooked on it after all this time.
Like, EverQuest 2's graphic engine was so they had future-proofed it at least for a couple of years, and it you know, because it had some high-powered graphics, and one of my friends then said, hey, I'm playing this other one that's not as graphic intense. You might want to try it. It's called World of Warcraft. And I switched over to World of Warcraft.
Bring that one up.
And I never went back to EverQuest.
All right, we got some...
Get power over Ethernet at home. It should be hard to add power over Ethernet to every router, so we can use an AP instead of what it's opted for. Why fewer wires and cables? What's up, Netgear? That's a great question. You're going to find that, like, a lot of things that we do on the business side come over onto the consumer products. The SX10 is a great example of that. It has multi-gig ports, which you can usually only find in enterprise level switches. So a switch that's under $300 with two 10 gig ports is pretty incredible. We do move that technology over. When is it coming? I don't know, but it's going. The key is you're an early adopter of power over Ethernet at home. It's just not as widespread, and once it starts getting a little bit more widespread, then you're going to probably see it more commonly in networking technology. But it's got to hit that tipping point, and I don't think it's hit that quite yet. But it's something that I would not. I couldn't see it not coming to consumer goods.
Yeah, just kind of echo.
Yeah, and we actually already have a lot of PoE switches that are available on the business side that are at slightly higher than consumer level prices, but not that bad. The Inside 8-port gigabit PoE switch is running about $100 right now. So those products do exist if people want them in the homes. Adding PoE to a router, most likely not, because the power requirements of the router are probably going to be more than what you're going to be getting from a PoE switch, unless you go all the way up to the PoE++ switches. And then there's a lot more costs. There's a lot more things they have to worry about, like heat. The power supply that you're using in your PoE++ is going to make that switch much larger than what you would normally have at home. So routers probably are not going to go that way. They do require a lot more power than the standard PoE devices, which are like cameras, lights, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I was just gonna kind of add to that and say that, like, it would be a great feature, obviously, to have that. But the consumer home products are kind of, when we think them up and create them, we kind of have to bear in mind just like the absolute most average Joe consumer, and something like PoE on an average Joe router is just not something that's going to be utilized by that many people. And so it'd be cool for the enthusiasts to have that feature, but it's just not something that's like highly in demand, like Ben mentioned, that we have it on the routers yet. To be seen if it'll ever happen.
But seeing that there was 2 questions about it, the interest is starting to start with it. So,
yeah, I mean, look at LTE products. It was something that we never really would even have considered doing 5-6 years ago, but now it's becoming more in demand. People want to have that fallback, or they want to use LTE in their rural home. So if it starts to become a demand, we'll figure out a way to do it. It's certainly not outside the realm of something that we're capable of. It's just a matter of, is it something that we're actually going to do? Is there a reason to do it? So, cool question. I like that question. And thank you for tuning in. Question.
So we've got like 14 minutes left.
Well, Vanessa, I can say Death Knight for WoW.
Yeah, I was a Death Knight as well. And they were so incredibly overpowered when they first came out.
Oh, no kidding. But they were a heck of a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. There was. I remember playing PvP and just watching a pack of Death Knights, like rabid dogs on a poor gnome wizard, just with that Darth Vader force grab, just yanking him around everywhere. And that's when I was like, "Ooh, I got to get one of those characters," because it looked like fun, and it was a ton of fun for PvP. But wow, yeah.
So if you had a friend, the best thing would be 2 rogues. You sneak up on a character, one person stun locks them, the next person hits them, then they stun lock them, the first person hits them, so the person they're attacking never gets out of stun lock. It's a cheap trick, but we were really getting tired of the Alliance killing us. So we decided we were going to get, some hits back on them.
I have to say, so I'm going to ask this. Alec, did you ever play World of Warcraft?
Yeah, I was going to kind of...
And you were Alliance, weren't you?
No, so I was going to change my answer from Call of Duty. I did try World of Warcraft. I didn't get into it because my first game that I loved as a little kid, and I still love it today, is RuneScape. I've been playing that game for like...
Oh, that was an excellent game.
I've been playing that game for like 15 years, and I will not stop playing it. That is my EverQuest, to put it in context of Vanessa. I'm sure one day I will be playing it for longer than the age of people I know. That game, there's a meme on... First of all, the old school RuneScape subreddit is hilarious. It's all memes, and there's an ongoing joke, like you never quit RuneScape, you only take extended breaks. And completely holds true. Like I will never quit that game. You're in. Once you're in.
RuneScape is really cool.
Get you hooked up to our video wall, and you can play it on that.
Oh yeah. All 5 pixels on the massive video wall.
Exactly, on a ginormous video wall.
Some of my friends are part of the development team of RuneScape, and the thing that they early on listened to their audience. They made some changes to RuneScape, and the audience did not like it. They were like, "Well, why don't you go back to like when it was good?" And they actually, that's when they came out with like RuneScape Classic, where they went back to an old
nobody plays RSD
branch
anymore.
And the interesting thing is people on the World of Warcraft side started grumbling about the same thing, and that's what caused
WoW Classic
them to do WoW Classic. But RuneScape was there first, and they also had a little bit of some esports as well, like early
the
on.
Dead Man mode.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty cool.
It's a great game, and the thing, what's so great about it is that it's pretty much unchanged in time. It does have like newer stuff, but it still has the mechanics of when it first came out.
Totally.
And it's such a great game.
Yeah.
Oh, don't mention Mech Warrior. There's that's the little game that tried so many times. And it would get to a point where every single one of those mech games were like working really good, and then they would pull the servers and start on a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna mention.
And as far as net parties working for Doom or Descent, my friends and I, get together to have LAN parties, and Doom was one of the first games that we played in the LAN parties. And I remember the first time that we booted it up, and we started playing at 9 at night, and we finally finished it at about 6:30 in the morning, just as the sun was coming up. And we made it through all the levels, blurry-eyed, and it was so much fun.
That's awesome.
Those days of that LAN party where shoving my PC in the back seat and driving over and co-oping like the kitchen table, putting plywood over the pool table, just trying to figure out where we could have space to play. Doom, Warcraft, Descent. There was another one that was the medieval.
There was Heretic. Another first-person shooter, which was great, especially with the mods.
Yep,
and Hexen was another one.
You could turn people into chickens, which was
hysterical. Love doing that.
But all of those early games, but Doom, there are still things like that I do in first-person shooters that were things that I learned in early Doom, and then also GoldenEye as well. So, a
game just for pure running and gunning and slaughter. Serious Sam.
Oh yeah.
You die, you respawn. You just keep running. You just keep killing things as more monsters are thrown at you, and it's a great thing for LAN parties and friends. And a little alcohol involved makes it even funner.
I have to say that the Doom remake was really good. I don't know if you've played it, but
I haven't played it yet, but I've heard it's really good.
And it went back to that thinking of where first-person shooters were like bullet hells, not there's some conveniently placed cover. Let me duck and cover and shoot. It was everything is shooting at you, and you must dodge everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to mention to you guys.
That's an interesting factoid that Vanessa put in there, that the space orb was also used by NASA to drive the very first Mars rover.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
Thanks for that info. Very cool.
See, these are the cool things that we learn on these. I always learn something new, different, or weird on all of these broadcasts. Yeah, it's worth the new Doom was pretty good. And for not being used to that sort of that gameplay, it was really interesting because we've been kind of protected by the whole Gears of War sort of first person of like, oh, there's a place where you can duck and cover. There's another place you can duck and cover, and not having the ability where you're just running was a completely. I had to relearn how to play. Oh, the Falcon
Quick thing
3.
for the stream here.
Yes.
Allie, Christine is checking to see if you got any contact from our customer service yet. She's just wanting to reach out to you.
Cool. So hopefully that gets resolved. I was gonna mention, like, on the topic of gaming, like now how much nostalgia is playing into gaming trends. Like we were talking about, like WoW Classic. It's crazy that people were willing to completely restart a new character just to get that old nostalgic feeling. And on top of that, speed running.
You call me crazy, Alec? I raid every week on Classic.
Yep. Well, Classic was the best.
See, for me, I just like when old school RuneScape came out, I was like, oh, I don't want to restart. But then like you see other people playing it, and you're like, I gotta do it. Like, and then you just restart. it's I don't know. It's more fun to play the old version because that's what we're used to.
Yeah, when I played Classic WoW for when it launched, and one of the I think I died like about 10 times before like level 10. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I was like, oh yeah, this is when I was like, where's the? Oh yeah, this is Classic. This is Iron Man mode where
this is when you were a noob.
Yeah, where everything will kill you. That bat, oh yeah, that's gonna kill you.
It's actually kind of cool. There's a pretty big Classic WoW community at Netgear. Like a lot of people play Classic WoW. I know. My boss plays it. I know Christian plays it on your team, Darren. A lot of people play that. I mean, I gotta hop on. I gotta start playing this game.
Well, I finally kicked my WoW habit about the time Pandas showed up. I'm sorry, Pandas just didn't work for me. It's like, I think I can leave now.
I remember that.
Panda monks. Those are pretty awesome. Yeah, I played, the Classic, and I dropped out mainly because, COVID happened. I started doing a lot more streaming, and I started doing a lot more first-person shooter stuff for streaming rather than streaming WoW. I probably should have went that direction. I probably could have went that direction as well.
I know.
But it's much slower streaming WoW. I mean, it takes a while to get there.
You gotta put on like some lo-fi hip hop if you're gonna stream WoW and kind of just like kick back and chill, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I did one RuneScape stream, and it was, I just did a quest, and it was just like, this cannot be that fun to watch. You have to get to endgame and do raids.
My DayZ stream. That was like just me getting stabbed while trying to figure out the interface.
Yeah, I mean, once you're in the endgame and you're doing raids, it's more interesting, but I don't know how long it takes to get to endgame in WoW, but to raid on RuneScape, you gotta like play for like 1,000 hours.
Yep.
No. Well, I think we're counting down the last few minutes here. I definitely want to say thank you to everybody that that joined us today. We had some great questions. I don't think we had any stumpers too much. And thanks for the likes. Any of you that still haven't hit that like button, please hit it because it helps us get a little bit higher in the ratings on YouTube, which allows us to help a lot more people. And then, we're here every week as long as you guys want us to be here every week. But I think that we're doing good work. I think we're helping you guys out. And you guys always bring interesting things. So, yeah, thanks. I just want to say thanks. I've been away for 2 weeks, so I'm all nostalgic.
Nostalgic.
Yeah, there you go. See, nostalgia's it's the number one feeling. It's the best feeling in the world. I got a cool comment from Ricky. My son-in-law plays WoW at home and video games all day at work. He's in the Air Force. Yeah, no,
is that a dig on the Air Force? Is that what he's saying?
No, I don't know.
Today.
There you go. But yeah, just to kind of echo Ben, these are so fun for us to do. It's always great to chat with everybody tuning into the stream. Apologies for starting late today. We wanted to debut the new overlay for you guys. We hope you enjoyed the new look and feel of the stream. We wanted to make it feel more like a news broadcast. We want to be a little more fancy. We're leveling up the stream to put it in some gaming terms that you guys will understand. But we're going to close out the stream. If there's no more closing notes from Michael and Darren, you guys want to say anything?
Yep, just been great chatting with everyone, and your comments that you've been posting have been excellent. Keep them up next week, and we'll see you in a week.
Yep. All right, everybody. Take care.
All right. Thanks, everyone.